So my wife and I used to play this game called Amateur. Well, actually, it's called Amateur. And the way it worked is, as we were talking with other couples, they would inevitably tell us some family lore about something their kids did that was destructive. And yeah, it's normally be something like they'd say, "Oh, those twins were such a trial. This one time, Troy pooped in his diaper, and Julie reached in and she took it and she drew on the wall like it was a crayon. And oh, what a disaster! At first, We would say to people things like, "Oh, well, walls are easy, right? What you need is some Clorox wipes and a couple of plastic grocery bags. Clean the wall off really well." Um, but what people really wanted was empathy about their issues as opposed to somebody coming on and telling them how to fix it. What we found pretty quickly, although we did meet some other professionals, which almost always were parents of autistic kids like Philip. What we almost always found was that people the gap was too large. The scale between what we were dealing with and what other people were dealing with, both in quantity and quality, were so different that we just could not get a common understanding. For instance, how do you tell people that the happiest day of your life, like even more so than when you got married or your kids were born, that the day that just makes you like, oh my gosh, that was so great, was the day that you had your son's shag carpeting replaced with linoleum. And yeah, and really, at one point, I am absolutely convinced that we were the world's foremost experts on Bissell and the proper uses. And I tell you what, those are great products. But still, I'm happy not to have to use them anymore. Um, so this gap is so large. So, for instance, one conversation that I used to try to have with people was to say, boy, Philip watches the same thing over and over again. And what would happen all the time is immediately somebody would chime in and be, oh, yeah, my little sister used to do that growing up, and it just drove me crazy. And at that point, I'd usually be like, oh, yeah, I know it. And I'd move on because it's really different. So for Philip, he has three screens going at all time. Now he watches different things on each screen, but he'll watch one show over and over again on that screen, and he's really watching it. So I mean, I know that because sometimes, I'll have him downstairs. I'll be helping with the dishes or coloring or something, and he'll just start to get antsy. He'll be like, at first I was like, Philip, do you need to go to the bathroom? But just so antsy, and I would say, Philip, go ahead, and boom, he'd run up to his room. And I followed him a couple times. What he was doing is he was going up there to hit play on his iPad. So, like, he's got this mental idea. He knows exactly when these things are over. And I don't know, I guess the world ends if he doesn't start the new one immediately. But he's, right up there dealing with it. I remember one time that he was sound asleep. And I know he was sound asleep because he was, like, snoring a little bit. And his iPad stopped. The movie was finished, and I was like, oh, thank goodness it's quiet. And even through his snoring, this little hand reaches out through the blankets and hits play and starts it over again. So, I mean, this kid is like really watches this stuff over and over. So, this one time, we have this server for Philip where we have all these shows that we've put out there to make sure that he always has access to them. And the amazing thing is this kid can't talk, but this kid uses an iPad like, he's a genius. Good job, Apple. So I'm looking through the server files, and he was big on 101 Dalmatians at the time. And so I looked, and there was a counter on it, and it said 2070. I'm like, wow, he's watched 101 Dalmatians 2,070 times. That's crazy. And then I realized that was in 1 year. So that was just the 365 days. So who knows how many tens of thousands of times he's watched this thing overall. And this is the kind of thing where, like, just the scale of what we're dealing with, like, people just don't understand. Um, but there's a lot of good about this too. So one time I was going over to my parents' house. They own the farm right next to us, and they would take Philip a lot. I have to say that my father and my son got along just incredibly well. Like I'm not sure I know two people who've gotten along so well. That here's this kid who can't talk, and here's this man, this doctor, who grew up on a farm and certainly doesn't value somebody by how much they talk, and they were inseparable. Really this close connection. But in front of my parents' house, there's a big driveway, like a 40 by 40 piece of asphalt that for parking. But as I was walking over there one day, I could see there just, I mean, it looked like this mosaic across that entire piece of asphalt, and it was really interesting. But as I got closer, I was like, this is just random chalk. But still, I was impressed. It would have taken me a week to you know, put that much chalk around. And then as I got even closer, it was clear that no, it was a design, and it was this amazing design. It was like these circles. It was kind of like pinwheels, circles with like these arcs going off of them, and they would meet up with other circles, and these circles were all different sizes. There were different colors, and so he wouldn't just like draw blue. He would, different parts of the arc would be different colors, and around the entire thing, you could see, well, like, oh, well, like this arc and this arc down here are exactly matching. But it wasn't clear. It was clear there was a design, but exactly how that design worked, it really wasn't clear. To this day, we thought we had a picture of it, but nobody can find it, and we all lament the fact that we don't have this picture. Like this is one of those times when, and those times are very many actually, where I would turn to my daughter and I would say, like, don't you feel bad for people who don't have a Philip? And she would turn to me sometimes with a tear in her eye, and she would always say, like, yeah, what do they do? Um, this one time, Philip was 4, maybe he was 3.5, and we were uh, going to Kansas to visit my aunt. And as we were there, frankly, I was feeling sorry for myself. Philip was still years away from being potty trained, and he was getting old enough to be very destructive. Um, I said to my aunt, I said, how did I get cursed? This is awful. And she said to me something really important. She said to me, Troy, I think you've got it totally wrong. I think that you'll find that Philip is actually a gift from God. I'm not religious, but this really struck a chord with me, and over the years I've found that that's right, that Philip and the different way he looks at the world, and a different way he connects really it is a gift that I do feel sorry for other people that they don't have. And so I wanted to start telling some of these stories so that I could start to share that, and also so that maybe I could help bridge this gap, so that um, people with children like Philip might be able to connect a little bit more with the rest of the world who really doesn't understand the scale. So anyway, thank you for listening to my story.